Vacation with my controlling friend exposed his true colors. Impatient, demanding, and condescending to his girlfriend. Watching him berate her nonstop made me rethink our friendship. Should I cut ties or give him a chance to change before it's too late? I apologize in advance for the long post, but I wanted to include details. I am a 29-year-old female, and my husband is a 31-year-old male. We recently went on vacation with my friend, whom we will call Larry, aged 31, and his girlfriend, whom we will refer to as Sandy, aged 30. It turned into such a slow-motion nightmare that I feel compelled to tell my friend that our friendship is over. Here is a little background information. Larry and I used to work together, and although we do not have much in common, we organically became fairly close friends. Even after I left the job, we continued to hang out regularly. We became close enough, for example, that he was invited to my wedding overseas. Larry is somewhat high maintenance. He is a control freak, very demanding, and clearly has a lot of anxiety and insecurities. Nonetheless, he is typically fun and sociable. We always believed his rude tendencies and vaguely misogynistic comments were intended for comic relief, and we tolerated them because he seemed like a good friend who genuinely cared. His girlfriend, Sandy, is wonderful. She is intelligent, fun, kind, inquisitive, and appears very independent. This is why we cannot understand how they ever became a couple. To put it bluntly, Sandy is attractive and a fantastic catch. On the other hand, Larry is not. He is not unattractive, but he is certainly not comparable to Patrick Dempsey. Larry dislikes public displays of affection and took over a year to express his love for Sandy. We all urged him not to take her for granted since she is well beyond his league. Recently, it seemed that he had matured a lot, even ordering an engagement ring. Fast forward to last week when we went on a beach vacation together. It was downhill from the very beginning. It started at the airport, where Larry rushed us around to avoid missing our flight, which was never truly at risk. He even pressured me to leave my unfinished meal behind so we could reach our terminal and stand around while they called the groups that preceded us. After arriving at our destination, he messaged our group and commanded my husband to pick up the rental car while Sandy and I handled another task, all in the name of maximizing efficiency. Again, this urgency was unnecessary. The point of a beach vacation is to have fun and relax. Neither my husband nor I noticed the text, and after we deplaned, we were waiting for Larry and Sandy. When Larry finally arrived, he barked at my husband. "What are you waiting for? Why aren't you getting the rental car?" We explained that we had not seen the text, so Larry and my husband went together to get the rental car, both signing on as drivers. When they came to pick up Sandy and me, we were apparently waiting in the wrong location, and Larry scolded us over the phone to relocate to another arbitrary spot for him to pick us up. When they arrived, Larry jumped out of the car and chastised Sandy for packing the incorrect bag. They had arrived at the airport separately, a long story. He had asked her to pack a specific bag, and she had misunderstood. This misunderstanding became a recurring issue throughout the trip. Our hyper-efficient vacation was anything but that, given that Larry had not organized any activities for us. This was fine, but it made all the relentless urgency even more frustrating, especially since he spent the entire day barking orders at everyone else. Every morning while in our shared hotel room, my husband and Sandy, who are early risers, would wake up first and make breakfast for Larry and me just out of kindness. Sandy would beautifully arrange Larry's breakfast plate with eggs, sausage, and a slice of fruit, and he would complain and berate her every morning for some different mistake in preparing his meal. Mind you, he would not make his own breakfast and would spend the entire morning in bed scrolling through X until his meal was ready. Whenever we traveled, he refused to drive and forced my husband to handle all the driving while insisting on sitting in the front seat, leaving Sandy and me, being women, of course, to sit in the back. Larry also insisted on controlling the music during our travels, and if he did take a request, he would complain about having to play anything other than his preferred music. It felt like everything we did was dictated by Larry's desires, and it was a constant source of tension, worrying about what he would choose. Even when we selected a movie to watch one night, we all wanted to see one film, but he decided on a different one. He chose Ted, completely disregarding our preferences. He made Sandy carry his bags wherever we went, even condescendingly explaining to her why she should bring his bag onto the plane since she was boarding first. It was appalling to witness. Not a single moment during our vacation passed without him complaining to her, berating her, speaking to her condescendingly, ordering her to bring him a beer from the refrigerator, and so on. He refused to do anything she wanted and never once expressed a desire to take a picture with her or compliment her in any way. It all came to a climax when my husband kindly offered to use his free checked bag to check the 40-pound bag that Sandy had brought. Larry attempted to persuade my husband to add another bag, his carry-on, to the checked bag request. This would have caused us to miss our flight, a long story, but he refused to compromise, leaving my husband to pay the extra fee. My husband held his ground and checked only one bag while Larry loudly complained that he wanted his bag checked as well. Ultimately, he did not want to carry it himself. This was not a new behavior. Each time we packed the car for the beach, moved luggage, etc., he was always absent. He would grab only his beach towel and phone, forcing his girlfriend, and essentially us, since we would help her, to carry his belongings after loafing and waiting until the last minute to get ready. So much for his so-called efficiency. Following the checked bag incident, he spent our walk through the airport scolding Sandy for not packing the bag he had insisted on before we left. I want to sever my friendship with him, but I am uncertain whether I should give him a chance to change first. This behavior is unlike anything we have witnessed from him, but it is not entirely out of character either. Additionally, I want to warn Sandy that she is being mistreated. Am I overreacting? Should I refrain from interfering in their relationship, even knowing he is planning to propose soon? Story 2. Mom's disappointment over my feelings towards my half-sister led to therapy drama. I realized I don't care about her judgment. Am I wrong to prioritize my own emotions? My mother, who is in her 40s, and I, who am 17, are attending therapy together. A few weeks ago, she expressed disappointment in the person I am becoming. This sentiment did not arise from nowhere, but the therapist was not pleased that my mother blurted it out during a discussion about another topic. The therapist requested that I skip the next 2 sessions while she spoke with my mother, which meant I was absent for 2 weeks and returned to the sessions last week. My relationship with my mother is complicated. My father passed away when I was 7 years old, and a few weeks before his death, we discovered that my mother was having an affair. At that time, my brother was 4 years old and unaware of the situation. My father attempted to shield me from the truth, but I knew that my mother was engaging in something inappropriate, and I recognized that she had deeply hurt my father. My father tragically died in a significant car accident just outside our town a few weeks later. That period was incredibly confusing for me, and I have harbored resentment towards my mother ever since. My brother does not share the same feelings of resentment. However, he also has issues with her. My father's parents and siblings turned against my mother because of the infidelity. When my father died, my mother was upset with them because she believed they were judging her for remaining with her affair partner. Her anger towards them sometimes led her to prevent us from seeing them, even during important moments, which seemed unfair to us. However, my mother never denied them enough time to establish grandparents' rights. Instead, this just meant that she occasionally canceled our plans due to her whims. My brother and I cherish our father's family, so it was significant to us. Moreover, my mother's family is not supportive, so they were our only extended family. 2 years after my father's death, her new partner moved in. My mother struggled with me during this time. I disliked her decision to let the man she was involved with move in, and I was also displeased that she chose to remain with him. My mother believed that I should not hold her or him accountable, and that I should give him an opportunity as my brother would be influenced by my attitude. At times, I was rude, while other times, I chose to remain silent. If he attempted to be fatherly, I made it clear that I wanted nothing to do with him, and whenever my mother tried to act as though we were one happy family, I reminded her that it would never be like that. Eventually, the situation calmed down. He ceased trying to engage with my brother and me, and my mother let go of the fantasy of a perfect family. Even when she gave birth to my half-sister, it wasn't too difficult. However, the situation with my grandparents remained problematic. Her partner is an only child, and his parents have passed away, while my mother's family is not supportive. Consequently, My half-sister lacks any extended family. My mother wanted my father's family to include her, as they included my brother and me. She attempted to use my half-sister as leverage to gain more time with us, but my father's family recognized that they would not welcome my half-sister and understood that my mother's attitude would continue to be an issue, so they declined. After some time, my mother tried to persuade my brother and me to convince them, but we refused. Then she began to criticize the fact that we refer to her as our half-sister rather than simply as our sister. My half-sister started feeling envious that my brother and I had more family than she did. She attended her school's grandparents' events, but she had no grandparents to support her. Then, she observed our extended family attending some of our events. She would ask my mother why we had family around, but she did not, to which my mother would generally respond that my father's family were bad people. She implied that they did not want my half-sister because of her gender rather than for any other reason. In November, my half-sister landed a lead role in a school play, and my mother asked me to persuade someone from my father's family to attend and support her, but I did not do so. It was after this that my mother decided that the two of us needed to attend therapy together. During therapy, she voiced how the half-sibling issue troubled her, how my rejection of her partner affected her, and how it hurt her that I perceive her as a bad person despite her intentions to do her best for us. She pointed out that I never say, "I love you" to my half-sister, but frequently express love for my brother, even when I wish to shake him sometimes. She insisted that I seem indifferent towards my half-sister, exhibiting only polite behavior, akin to how one interacts with a neighborhood kid rather than a younger sister. She confessed to blaming me for our failure to become a cohesive family. I replied that I would not forget what my mother had done or who her partner was, nor that my half-sister is a product of their relationship. I acknowledged that my feelings are different towards her, as she is a child, and I do not treat her the same way I would treat my mother and her partner. However, I do not share the same bond with her as I do with my brother. I expressed my frustration that my mother expects my father's family to embrace my half-sister, considering she is the product of her affair with my father's partner. During one session, my mother stated she was disappointed in the person I was becoming. The therapist, along with my mother, discussed my mother's handling of the aftermath of my father's death, and that is when she expressed her disappointment. After my return to therapy, my mother offered a half-hearted apology, stating she explained her feelings. This dominated the session. We had another session on Monday, 2 days ago, during which I confessed that I did not care about my mother's disappointment in me. The therapist inquired why, and I responded that I had felt that way about her for a long time. I acknowledged that her primary concern was my relationship with my half-sister and how I felt about her. I indicated that it did not upset or bother me, and I did not truly care about my mother's opinion. The therapist asked me further questions and attempted to address my mother as well, but she remained silent and refused to respond. Once we arrived home, my mother erupted in front of me, insisting that I should care about her opinions because she is my mother. She claimed that if I did not care, it meant I had stopped loving her and questioned how I could be so openly cruel. Am I the antagonist? Story 3. Several people thought I worked at a charity shop while I was passing time for medical tests. I was reviewing some older posts that I saved or liked and came across this thread on Reddit again, which reminded me of a story that occurred a couple of months ago. It became a bit lengthy, so here is the summary. 2 individuals mistakenly believed I worked at a charity shop, and other random events took place both leading up to and following that moment. I have been dealing with a back injury that has persisted for about 4 years now. Dozens of doctors, specialists, and physiotherapists have examined me, yet no one has determined what is wrong. Tests, treatments, and surgeries have also yielded no results. On one specific occasion, I was scheduled for a full day of tests because a cyber attack had compromised the facility where my initial tests were conducted, leaving no records on file. I discarded the physical copies, not thinking it would become an issue. I did not anticipate that one of the tests would require an injection and necessitate a return 4 hours later for the effects to take hold. I was unable to complete the other tests in the meantime and only discovered this on the day of the appointment. Information regarding that specific test would have been helpful. I may have chosen to watch a movie or something similar instead. Nonetheless, what is done is done. Currently, my car is old. I have always owned older vehicles, but this is the first one I possess that has a CD player, a 1999 Subaru, which is the newest car I have ever had. I intended to purchase at least 2 or 3 CDs for when radio advertisements interrupt. Thus, I visited the local charity shop. Having worked in one of these establishments around 8 years ago, I knew they typically carried older items that would remain unsold for extended periods, and most shoppers there would overlook these products. While searching for CDs, a man approached me, possibly in his late 30s or early 40s. He inquired about the availability of certain games. I responded, "Beg your pardon," and he appeared baffled and repeated his question. After a brief exchange, I realized he thought I was an employee and explained, "Oh, I am sorry. No, I do not work here. I used to work at a similar place long ago. Show me what you are looking for." He pointed to a bookcase about 3 rows down from my position. I informed him, unfortunately, those items sell very quickly. There are regular customers who specifically seek these items, and some even know the delivery schedules of the drivers to grab them immediately. Unless they are preparing something in the back, I seriously doubt there is anything more than what is visible on the shelf. At that point, I directed him to the room where they sort donations, suggesting, "You might have a small chance of success by asking one of the employees in there." He expressed his gratitude and seemed astonished that I was not an employee. Despite my fundamental understanding of how these places operate, I did not think anyone would mistake me for a staff member. We engaged in a brief conversation until his child, who appeared quite embarrassed for some reason, tugged at his arm and said, "Dad, let's go." He thanked me once more, and after he left, I assumed that was the end of the encounter. I found no CDs worth purchasing, so I exited the store to pass the time. However, another man followed me out. I know he followed me because I have always had a tendency to look at mirrors, windows, or any reflective surfaces to check if someone is attempting to sneak up on me or follow me. I walked approximately half a kilometer from the store when he called out to me, asking something about the shop. I genuinely cannot recall what he asked, but I replied, "Excuse me." And he said, "You work at that store, right? You were assisting that guy." I awkwardly laughed and replied, "No, man." For some reason, he thought I worked there. I used to work at a similar shop and merely offered him some advice, to which he thanked me and walked away in the opposite direction, covering another 200 to 300 meters before stopping at a bus station. It was such a surreal day. I wore a He-Man Skeletor shirt that one of the doctors and a stranger I passed on my way to the store complimented me on. Additionally, I found a 4-leaf clover. To top it off, when I returned home, I visited my local bottle shop and decided to treat myself to something nice. Gentleman Jack was on sale for $35, but when it was scanned, the price came to $60. I pointed out the shelf price. Someone must have made a mistake. Perhaps it was a stroke of good karma for me. I do not know. It was an incredible day for once.